was an unfortunate situation. And all I'm going to say to you guys on it right now, and I will talk about it more in detail, but you could build the safest airplane in the world, and if there's pilot error, there's pilot error. Want me to stand up on the thing? I like being down here with you guys. I feel like I'm a man of the people with you guys. Hey, how are you? Good. Do you guys enjoy it? Good. Do you guys? Hey, it's good to see you. How you guys want to go one by one?
Sure. What's the protocol backstage when you see something like what happened with Cody with that chair shot and the blood coming out?
Called the doctor immediately. It was obviously really regrettable what happened. I don't know if this is the time to go into detail about what happened, but we had taken precautions in this situation and that specific situation, and doctor was available, and Cody does not have a concussion, and his staples, and that we're all very grateful for that.
Your first thoughts about Fyter Fest, the results?
My first thoughts about the results, I think it's really like what happened at the end with Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley leaves us with a lot of really big intrigue going into their match at All Out. I think it's a huge match at All Out coming up, and it's one that people are really excited about. We announced it right before tickets went on sale, and then we had the most demand anybody's ever had for a show when we did our pay-per-view announcement, and I think there's going to be huge demand on pay-per-view, and I think people are really excited about that match. So I think that left a lot at the end. Kenny was up and Mox was up, and then to see at the end, I think it felt like Kenny had done so much to finish Mox off, but Mox was still there. He took a licking and kept ticking, and that was pretty cool. Also in the women's matches, I thought it was awesome. Riho was tremendous and really earned that victory, and that was a really hard-fought women's match. Also, Allie and her match, I thought they put together a great match, and Allie was tremendous in that. The three-way tag was like a very significant result. I think for the best friends now, they're in a really good position, and we have this tag team tournament that I told the media, and specifically I said Steve Austin as a member of the media that I wanted to do a tag team tournament, and we're going to do a tag team tournament when we go to a weekly television show. And that was a really important result as well. Shima getting a win, I think that was a really important result. He's got a big match with Kenny Omega in 2 weeks in Jacksonville, right up the road in my backyard, in my little home, in my home venue. I live there in that complex that you guys are going to go be at the show at. And that was a huge result. Great show all around. And obviously Cody and Darby, that was a big, for Darby, what a showing tonight. And the draw, you saw that, I think they really went for it at the end, and it got really heated. But you got to watch the time limit. And Darby Allin, what a showing! What a great match! And it was unfortunate what happened after the match between when Sean went and did that. And it was an unfortunate situation. And all I'm going to say to you guys on it right now, and I will talk about it more in detail, but you could build the safest airplane in the world, and if there's pilot error, there's pilot error, and that was it was not good. I'm trying to think. That was I covered a lot of the matches there. Do you have any other questions on the matches? Or
speaking of Fyter Fest in 2 weeks, how do you feel about WWE counter programming with the Evolve Anniversary show?
We just kind of focus on our shows and what we're doing. I'm really excited about Fight for the Fallen. Thanks for asking about it, because it's something I wanted to do for a very long time since we first had conceived All Elite Wrestling, because I think it's going to make a really positive contribution to my local community in Jacksonville. And, I think people want to come out that day. We're going to have a very good crowd, and I also think that a lot of people are going to watch it on TV, and we'll be taking donations and trying to help victims of local violence. And I'm a huge wrestling fan, and I won't be able to watch that show because we have a lot of things going on of our own. So I think for a lot of people that's probably unfortunate, but there's only so many weekends, and you got to do your shows when you're doing them. So what are you going to do?
You talk about the first episode on TNT. What goes through the planning process of planning what venue you're going to do, what size venue you're going to do, and then moving forward?
It's a really extensive process. It's a really good question. We haven't said anything specific on dates. So, but without saying anything too specific, Raph is standing right here. We've had really extensive conversations on it. We spend a lot of time talking about it, and we're going to have a great lineup of buildings prepared. We're going to do really great TV shows, and I think it's something that people have been missing. There's certainly been one company that consistently has produced really high production value TV and from big arenas weekly on a live basis, and I think now there'll be more people doing it, and I think that's really good for wrestling fans to have more of that.
Tony,
Sorry, yeah.
You had mentioned the time limit, and also the Bucks had mentioned that as well. Is that something we expect to see on the TV weekly?
Well, there's only so much time. We only have so much time on the show, so I think we're going to have time limits, and you have to, we're going to have to stay in the time limits, or we have to go on and have other matches, because otherwise one match could take the whole show, as you saw. But yeah, we will have time limits, yeah.
Tony, tonight we saw attacks, we saw middle fingers, there was cursing, there was blood, there was chair shots. Can we expect some of these things on TNT weekly?
No, definitely not. That was because this was not TV. This was a streaming show. It was it was effectively a pay-per-view in a lot of the world. In the U.S., it was presented free, but this was a pay-per-view, and so you can expect different rules for pay-per-view. And we said going in, these are non-sanctioned, unsanctioned hardcore matches, and I think that that expectation was going in, and we wouldn't have advertised that kind of violence that, we wouldn't have offered that on TNT. 100% no. So, no, that's a good question, though, Austin. Thanks for asking, because I'm glad you gave me a chance to clarify.
Tony, with Double or Nothing being so successful, what was the first move after that to make sure that momentum kept going?
A lot of the pieces were in place. The first move after that was really to make sure we had everything, all the ducks in a row, to do a great series of shows through the summer and through television. And we'd already been working on those things, and it was just really marching that path forward. And I think that's going to consistently be what we have to do to make sure we can keep offering great shows, not just like minute to minute, and not be a wrestling company where like at the beginning of the show, like I'm telling Keith what is going to happen later in the show, which has happened on other wrestling companies before. It wouldn't be the first time Keith's been on a headset and he has no idea what's going to happen on the show he's producing. Like generally, I think we do a good job keeping like the production crew informed, like what to expect, and sometimes there's surprises, and that's what makes wrestling great, like live TV, and that's that awesome aspect of it. But like going back to your question, Chris, like I just think that like we have to keep like planning ahead to keep producing great shows, and like it's only going to ramp up when we get to weekly. Right now we've been doing a show a month, and we made Double or Nothing, which is a great pay-per-view any way you slice it, and we did that. Thanks, Austin. If we were in Jackson, because if you don't know the background, Austin played for the Jaguars, and so if I have a lot of people don't know that we're in the scrum. So like I want people, because we did the last scrum in Double or Nothing. People are like, why do you keep playing? Because he played for us in Jacksonville. He's my friend. But yeah, you could coach would have fined you for that, buddy. I can't find you anymore. But anyway, I'm sorry. It was too fun. It's fun. I haven't seen him like this in a while. I'm sorry, but anyway, back to your question. We have to keep doing great shows. It's really fun being here with you guys, and I think it seemed like people really enjoyed the show. The crowd afterwards was really happy, and it makes me really happy because, it's the second show in a row. We've had a lot of fans in a building. I think production-wise, Keith and the guys did a great job, and the wrestlers killed it. So we just have to keep doing that, and it takes a lot of work to prepare to do that. And so the day after Double or Nothing, like everybody was out, notebooks out, pens out, like making plans, and we just have to keep doing that and plan ahead, so we're not doing stuff at the last minute, trying to throw stuff together and trying to agree to what we're gonna, it's no way to run any kind of business.
Tony, with the way the rundown was set up tonight, it was action, promo, action, promo, action. Not a lot of cool down spots, but you didn't lose the crowd at all. What does that say about what you guys were able to accomplish, and is that something you can expect with TV as you move forward week to week?
When you watch like a professional fighting event, like if I were watching, say, a UFC or a mixed martial arts event or a boxing show, that's how it would be. There's fights. I was at the Ruiz Joshua fight at MSG at ringside, and I watched, and it was, they had fights, and there weren't a lot of cool down spots between the fights, and they went out and they had a great main event, and it built up, and the crowd was really with it. And I think it's the same thing with a wrestling show. If you want, have focus on the fights, people are here to see the matches. We advertise the matches, and also people are really into what we do on promos. And I think our social media, being the elite and the road too, we do some of the best stuff anybody's doing out there in terms of building up matches and doing unconventional stuff and doing comedy. And we did some comedy stuff in the matches tonight. And I will say that there was a hardcore match with a non-wrestler performing, and there was an element of nepotism, and you're going to see that every time we come to CEO, which will be once a year, and at least you're not getting it once a week.
Earlier on, the Young Bucks had mentioned they thought
I was going to say earlier on, the Young Bucks had mentioned that they thought Fyter Fest might be a one-off. Is this going to be a partnership, whether it's with this particular event or in Daytona, that you want to have an annual show?
Yeah, that was really fun. People seem to have a good time. I think we could do this every year. I don't know why I wouldn't want to come back and do this. And Alex was a great partner, and it wasn't my favorite match of the night, but they went out and he worked really hard, and they really he put a lot on his shoulders. And going out, I was like, we're planning to do a lot more than like almost any non-wrestler with your level of experience has gone out and done in this kind of setting. And do you feel good about it? And I thought he did a really good job. And Kenny and us, I put a lot of faith in Kenny to get this right, and Kenny put a lot of faith in him. And I thought he did a good job. And that aside, just the show in general, I thought the fans from the convention were great. I really enjoyed the experience of being here all week with the gaming fans. There were a lot of people who didn't really know the wrestling going in, and I think there were some people that came in from the convention like that, but when we got in here, it felt like the people really did know our stuff. It felt like it was a crowd that really knew us very well, and I think there was some crossover with the convention, but generally I think we have a pretty loyal fan base, but they enjoyed the convention too. There's a lot of people that were just doing both things, and I think that's great, and it's a really important thing to Kenny, so it's a really important thing to me. So,
I'm sorry, man.
No, it's good.
Guys, last question.
No, it's fine. I'm good. I think that's why I'm fine. I'm fine, Mandy. I actually really enjoyed catching up with you guys, and I met a lot of people seem like they have stuff. So what's up, boss?
So from your perspective, what's more satisfying? Is it signing a big name like Moxley, or is it kind of introducing the world to a Darby Allin, where nobody really knows him, but everyone was chanting his name tonight? What's more satisfying for your position?
You can't have a one-person wrestling company. You can't just have one thing. There's no way you can have a wrestling company that people feel good about. There's never been one in the history of the world where there was just one act that people care about. There have to be a lot of really interesting things going on. You have to have really established performers that people care about, to bring in the casual fans, but also just to bring it out for everybody that 100% of the people care about, like Jon Moxley. And then you have Darby, who any hardcore wrestling fan by now has seen. And it's funny you bring it up because they just recently, not for us, but an independent match. They had a great match. And it was awesome. And then they both came in and separately had awesome matches tonight. But I think a large percentage of our fan base probably knows him, but I think it's actually a great thing because they can almost work together. And I don't prefer one thing to the other. I think it's great to have both. And having somebody with the star power of a Jon Moxley who can bring in so many fans, hopefully will introduce more people to how great Darby is and what an awesome performer, what an awesome wrestler he is. And I think everybody enjoyed Darby in a setting. I thought it was an awesome wrestling match, and so yeah, I just think you need both.
We've seen how Jungle Boy was in the Battle Royal, and then today he got to showcase himself a little bit more in singles competition. There's a lot of people here on the roster that want to get their chance to showcase, and we've heard the stories in WWE. We listened to Moxley when he was on with Jericho. There's been a morale issue. There might still be one. What's the plan for? Or what if
I have no idea. I don't know if there's what do you mean?
How are you planning to incorporate everyone on the roster, whether it be social media?
You're not going to see everybody on the show every week and stuffed in just for the point of having them on the show, just to get them in a small segment. I want to try and get people in meaningful segments every week on every show. So that means that some people, not everyone's going to be on every show, and a lot of our best performers weren't on this show, and a lot of top people. And just like that in a Fight for the Fallen, there's going to be top people that aren't on the show. At the biggest pay-per-views, we'll try and get every big name, at a Double or Nothing and All Out and Future. The biggest pay-per-views that are on our roster, whether it's 4 or 5 of them a year. You're going to see everything but the kitchen sink. But I think, there's a difference with a 4-hour pay-per-view with a 1-hour pre-show, how many people you can get on, to this where, it's a streaming special where you're scheduling maybe a 1-hour pre-show and then, a little under 3, and then you're planning, 2-hour TV show, you'll obviously be able to use even less people. So I just think rotating performers and trying to make sure you have everyone keeping storylines, that's where social media will be involved, and also trying to do hopefully more hours of content, trying to incorporate more people, but in a schedule that is manageable, because I think you can keep people relevant and give people things to do in wrestling without keeping them on the road 5-6 days a week.
You have such a stacked roster on that note. How much space do you have left? How many more members of the roster?
We're not actively out trying to sign people to fill out the roster. I don't think we need depth across the roster. I think we have a really deep, awesome roster, and we have top stars too. So it would have to be something really, really captivating. So if we're making moves in free agency, it's because we feel really strong. And I've said this before. I feel really good about the roster we have. I feel it's a really stacked roster, and I'm glad to hear it's kind of the popular thought now, and it's not just me saying it, because I think we have a really stacked roster. So yeah, you better believe if anybody signs with us as a free agent, we feel really, really strongly about him, because we certainly don't need to add anybody. We have a really great group. We're going to have great men's singles and tag and great women's singles and tag divisions, tournaments, and champions. I think we're really close to crowning an awesome champion between Chris Jericho and Hangman Page. I think, and then from there we'll be announcing how we'll be crowning our other champions in the divisions, and trying to make those really meaningful. And I think they are really meaningful, and you'll see that, just like you guys asked about, doing shows where it's like the focus is on the matches, but we didn't lose anybody. I think it's by design, because people want to see great wrestling matches and a show that's focused in the arena. And I've talked about that a lot. I talked about it the last time I did a scrum with you guys, and I talked about it, I think, on the radio with Mark Henry, and I've talked about it on Steve Austin's podcast, that I want to do shows that are focused in the arena. And I think I talked about that with you, Chris, on YouTube, that I'd like to keep the shows focused and not too much backstage, because I think what people care about is the content, mostly of the wrestling matches. That doesn't mean 100%, but probably 90% of the show or more should be wrestling.
Tony, we see companies like New Japan where stipulations are very few and far between on certain shows. And you see companies like WWE where there's 1 or 2 stipulations a night. What's kind of your strategy when it comes to using stipulations?
It depends on the show. This is a special show. I think you'll see more stipulations on pay-per-views and streaming specials. And I think a TV show, you'll probably see more straight wrestling matches and less stipulations. So this was the kind of format, and and at All Out, you'll see some stipulation matches for sure. We have some really exciting stuff planned for All Out, and I think that you'll see some in that element. You'll probably see more than you will on our weekly 2-hour television show.
How you guys are preparing for All Out? In difference what you did on Double or Nothing or last year's All In.
Well, I wasn't at All In, so it's very different preparation, because a lot of us weren't working that show, and Keith wasn't producing so it's a very different team. But those guys learned a lot and took very valuable experience. So certainly coming back a year later, a lot has changed, and we all got a lot of valuable experience from producing Double or Nothing and learned a lot. So it'll be our first event of that magnitude, of the full-blown pay-per-view, available here and worldwide on pay-per-view. And I think that it's, we have a lot to live up to. We have a big act to follow, big shoes to fill after Double or Nothing, and I think we're really up to it. I think All Out's going to be an awesome show. I think it's very cool the guys are coming back with All Out, a year later, and with a chance, with this loaded roster, everything they had then and so much more, and a chance to do something really special.
You personally, how are you handling the responsibilities of not only starting up AEW, but being an executive for a couple of sports teams, particularly with Fulham with the transfer window open right now?
It's a great question. It's really hard. I've been in London this week, and I've been here, and I've been going back and forth, and I've been in Jacksonville. It's really nice having the show in Jacksonville, so I was able to do a little bit of work there. And I've been doing work in the transfer window. I talked to George Mendez on the phone from the show. I talked to George Mendez last night in my hotel. I don't think there are a lot of executives in the championship that are talking to George every day, they're in the position I'm in, about trying to do deals. I've talked to the biggest football agents in the world, not to just drop George's name, but a lot of other guys too that I could drop. But while I've been here, and a lot of teams, because there's a lot of interesting things going on in the market. So I am a really active executive. I can also talk to you about what the Jags are thinking going into camp, but I generally try not to get too in-depth. Same as when I did a Fulham podcast where I did over an hour with the Fulham guys recently, and I think that podcast did really well in the sports podcast. I don't know if it worldwide, if it did the kind of numbers Steve did, because I think for Steve Austin it was one of the, if not the biggest show download-wise Steve ever did. I believe it was the biggest download show Steve Austin's ever done, and which is saying something, because Steve's interviewed pretty much everybody in the business. And we did real well with that Fulham one that I did, but I stayed away from the wrestling on there too, and we didn't talk about it all, except they briefly congratulated me. It was 5 seconds, and I said thanks. But I try not to get too deep into it, because everyone wants to focus on wrestling here, but it's hard for me, because there's only so many hours in the day. You have to multitask. It's really hard. One
of the things I noticed with your style is your transparency. How important it is for you to be open, honest, not only when you're doing these interviews, but with talent, when they first meet you, you want to make a good first impression, and they've, pro wrestling is not known for transparency a lot of times when it comes to other companies. So it seems like, a different style that you're kind of going. Are they kind of a little bit what do you,
Well, if I'm in sports, you can't not talk about the other teams. It's different here, because we, you're playing yourself almost, because you have to, to put on the best show you can. You can't focus on the competition here. And for me, so the competition is almost ourselves, and putting on the best event we can put on. Let's challenge ourselves and focus on ourselves and like do the best within ourselves. So it is different, but I think there's other sports like that. It's like playing golf. You know, you can like see what other people are doing relative to par, pay attention. Like, okay, well, I need a birdie here or whatever. But at the end of the day, like it's about you and what you're doing. It's like you have to focus on yourself. So it is. I do think that it is cool because it is different than the other sports I play because you spend so much time like scouting and watching tape of other people. And here, I mean, you can scout other wrestlers and you watch, which is great because I love watching wrestling, right? Like other companies and stuff. But you can make use of it and make it like an actual valuable skill instead of the one thing you're doing that's not like productive use of your time watching English football and watching NFL and college football. But anyway, like it's I just try to be transparent with like the media in all sport, in England with Fulham and with the Jaguars, because you guys are just doing your jobs and with the fans too, because at the end of the day, I think that's like one of the reasons people like AEW, not just from me but from the wrestlers. Like we've been pretty real about it. I mean, they're certainly like I think it's 2019 and people know wrestling's a work, but like we do come out and try and be like pretty like straight with you guys about like what we're doing. That like this is from our hearts and we are trying to give something to the fans, and I think people have really like bought into it and believe in it. And so I do think that kind of transparency like has really paid off, not like from me specifically, but also like from just like everybody here that like we really like it, and everybody has a different, everyone has a different take on it. Like Max came in and gave you his version of it, but that's what that's real life, because like that's like living with him, like it's like being in business with him. You go places with him and you're people, and they're like, that guy's like really rude, and you're like, yeah, that's like what he is. Like I'm sorry, so it's just like it's life with MJF.
How has the creative team evolved in the past few months since AEW has really gotten underway? Is it booked by committee, or is it
since
one
inception? It's been a committee. It's like I think it's like a lot of wrestling companies probably function with like one person who's like at the end of the day has to like make calls and go over everything, but with a bunch of people working together. We have a system. We have a group of coaches that go through each match, and every match has a coach. And then we have the EVPs who creatively are working together on everything, but not everybody's necessarily working the same amount on everything. Like for example, Kenny Omega, super involved and personally coaching the women's matches. And like but me, I'm going over everything with everybody to some degree, and so yeah, that's how it's a committee, and we have a lot of people that are really involved in different levels and but yeah, to answer your question, I think it's probably set up like a committee. But with the executive vice presidents all have like an incredible amount of input because everyone's got their own things that they focus on, not just their own, those guys, their own angles, but other people's angles too. They all are really involved. The Young Bucks are like super involved in what goes on in like tag team wrestling in our company. And like Cody, not just in the singles, but with so many people throughout the roster and our production and every one of them comes up with things that you wouldn't believe, like little elements of the show. Like there's great parts of all of our shows and you wouldn't believe it. I'd be like, oh, that was some great thing. And Nick Jackson came up with that. And that had nothing to do with the Young Bucks, but Nick, just different things. And that's what's really cool. We talk a lot, and I can be, and that's back to the question before about how I juggle all these things. I can be in England with a meeting with like all the biggest soccer agents and football clubs and trying to negotiate deals and with players. And I can look at my phone and I got 68 text messages on the thread with Cody, Matt, Nick, and Kenny, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll catch up. And you scroll through. It's just stuff moves fast. We all talk a lot, and Brandy's very active in stuff going on with the women too. We have a lot of people. Christopher Daniels who's very involved in the creative. Chris Jericho always has amazing ideas. So it is like very much a committee. Yeah. But that's a great question. What is there anything else?
Tony, Jungle Boy and Ali talked about a little bit earlier about intergender wrestling. What are your thoughts on it, and could we possibly see it in AEW?
Probably won't see it in AEW. If there was one thing, I'll just be like super frank about this. If there was one thing, how many of you guys were all at All In? Who was at All In? A bunch of you guys were at All In? The Battle Royal, does anybody remember when Jordan Grace got hit in the face?
Yes.
That was probably the one thing I didn't like about All In. That, and there were two things I didn't like about All In. That and the penis druids. And what? I didn't like the penis druids. Okay. I wouldn't do the penis druids on TV. I wouldn't be able to do that on TV. On pay-per-view, you could probably do the penis druids. On pay-per-view, I probably would have done the penis druids.
Okay.
Here's what I didn't like about it, to be honest with you. Here's what I didn't like about it at the time is, like, I'm a big Hangman guy, and, like, he won the match, and you almost kind of forgot he won the match. Because, like, it was you want to protect that guy in that situation. You feel real strong about that guy. And then look at, in our company now, in the two big shows we've done, I think he's come out and delivered. And, I was talking to Steve Austin, and I don't know if you guys all listened to that, but Steve Austin said that guy's got star written all over him. And, like, Steve's not going to say it if he doesn't believe it. Like, that guy's a star. And he came out, he's a big star again tonight. And that was just how I felt. I was like, you almost forgot Hangman won the match. So that's why I didn't like that. But I didn't like when Jordan Grace got hit in the face. I'm sorry to sidetrack. But yeah, I didn't like and I don't think that's cool. And like I am like really domestic abuse, and I don't think I'm not saying that is. And it's a really complex question, and I knew it would come up sooner or later. But it's probably not what we're gonna do, and we're gonna focus on a men's division singles and tag, and a women's division singles and tag, and have those divisions. And there could be some mixed division mailer. I don't know. I haven't thought that much about it, but mixed matches we're probably not what we're going to focus on.
On the Penis Druids, how actively did you guys court Joey Ryan before he made the choice to sign with the Indies?
That's great. I really like Joey. Yeah, I don't know. It's I've opened up a can of worms on this. No, it's funny. I didn't book. I was at my show. I didn't book the show. So like I was just like I said, it wasn't that. It was just like I didn't like the whole thing with Hangman going on.
No, I just wondered if you guys should sign him. Like, did you guys actively try to get Joey? I mean, he does seem to have gone elsewhere.
Yeah, he's doing. There's a lot of. There's tons of people I really like that aren't here. But I'm not saying whether I've made like active offer. I'd rather not get into like everybody we haven't made offers to. But I really like Joey. Joey's great, and he's obviously like really featured character on Being the Elite, and he's really good friends with like a lot of the guys in the company. He's an awesome wrestler. But yeah, I wasn't. I like Joey. I wasn't saying that. I was just saying that element of. It was one of the best pay-per-views I think of all time, and like I said, I did like that. The Penis Druids are a lot better than Jordan Grace getting hit in the face, in my opinion, if that makes sense.
That's fine. You said Penis Druids like 6 times. I'm sorry. It's just funny.
It's good. It's funny. Yeah, it's good. I'm glad we elaborated on it.
You mentioned how you got a lot of depth on the roster now, and the roster might be set for now. The same way football team might try to bring in some guys who are like the good character guys. It seems like you've got a lot of those, wrestlers who are good character guys. And we've heard that a lot today, where it seems like everyone's very positive. Everyone kind of has each other's back. Is that, go into it? You just don't want, big name star here or someone who's a good worker, but you want to make sure you get the right types of people here?
Yeah, that's absolutely been the case here. That has come up several times where there were people that we didn't take that we all think are like awesome wrestlers, like really good people that aren't here because I think people didn't want to deal with a headache. And without like naming specific people, I just think that like absolutely that's in any sport, like there's people that with the talent, it's like undeniable. So I think it's like a really great question. It's one of those things that you always have to balance it, right? Because sometimes you can take a risk on somebody that doesn't have a great reputation because you've just heard things. So you have to, it depends on the information you get, right? Like, firsthand, did somebody in the company like dealt with it? And they'll say like, yeah, that's just a really hard person to work with. Well, then if they've already been down that road and they really feel strongly about it, then they're probably telling you the truth, right? So that's a pretty good indicator, I think, in any sport. Like if you have people that have been in the locker room with those people, whether whether it's football or wrestling, I think you can trust your people. And I think what we have here is like a really good dressing room with people that like have worked together before, and people that like feel real strongly about each other. And the people that haven't worked together before, they work with like somebody here before. Everybody knows somebody here, and that's a really good question, because that is one of the strengths of our company. I think is like we have a really good group of people, and there are tense moments for sure, but it's been certainly through 2 shows. It's been a pleasure. Is there anything? Do you guys have anything else?
Do you have a city picked out for the first TNT show?
Have not confirmed it yet, but we're working on cities, not just for the first one, but for all of them, because it's going to be a week.
Why is it Jacksonville? No.
It's funny. Bear in mind, planning to go in the fall, and it will be during football season, so that would be obviously be thinking about that for sure. But I really enjoyed catching up with you guys. I try to answer everybody's questions. If anybody has anything else, and I'm always pretty available. So it's great catching up with you guys. I really appreciate it, and thank you for. Thanks, guys.